Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome on Facebook Live, youtube.com, KEV, Kevin Olenick, Spreaker.com, KEVOLE, Soundcloud.com, KEVOLE. And of course, you can also follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE. And I would like to, there's a huge topic today, sitting out here in Vancouver, just a little bit after 11 o'clock my time, 12 o'clock in Calgary and in Alberta. And a lot of people probably either A, did not get a lot of sleep because of either excitement or sadness. It's quite possible to have sadness today. And are just either slept in or just waking up or kind of groggy. But I thought, of course, the topic of today is that I'm going to talk about is what a lot of people are talking about, the results specifically in the Calgary election, and specifically around that I want to talk about. And for those that are like, you live in Vancouver, why are you talking about Calgary? I'm from Calgary, so this matters. It's my home place, and I care, and I think a lot of people around Canada actually care for a number of different reasons, which we will get into as we talk about this. So the first thing I do want to say is a couple of things. I think I'm going to do rounds of applause. I think a round of applause goes to all of the people that had the courage to put their name forward in this election campaign, whether that be a ward, mayor, or a city councilor, mayor, school trustee, whatever. It's a huge round of applause for that. I think that takes a lot of courage. And while there's many that are happy today, I think some people have had a very, very tough day and not having the results that they want. And I hope that those people are getting the care and attention that they need as the days go on. You will have your own self-reflection, and we'll talk about what happened. And I hope that may there be a lot of good people around those people that put their name forward, supporting you in your efforts. And kudos to you, because there's a lot of us that would not do it. I wouldn't do it, but others, and you would. So I think thank you in Calgary, in Edmonton, and all over, putting your name forward and making this process more interesting and being engaged in the process in that way. So thank you. I also think, and I know that this is going to be a bit of a controversial thing to say because a lot of people are angry, but I think a kudos goes out to the people that were involved, volunteering or participating in the vote, at the voting stations and the polling stations. I think a huge round of applause, because you know what? Yeah, I know that there was a lot of people really angry that there are lost ballots, and that seems, it is not good. That's not good. But it's also a very stressful and human situation, and it takes a lot of guts to handle and improvisation to handle that when people are screaming in your face. I've been in the customer service industry for more than 10 years. I've had people scream in my face. It's not fun. So trying to handle that with some form of decorum, I think congratulations go out to the people. Now, that being said, the system seems to me like it needs to change. It seems to me from sitting here in Vancouver that they were preparing for the least, not the most. So they were not expecting a high voter turnout. They did not prepare for a high voting turnout, which is close to 60% by last count. And I think that there's a number of solutions to that. Instead of having polling stations just at schools, I think the option to vote close to your workplace, like more voting stations downtown might be an option that I was thinking about. Here in Vancouver, and there's been a lot of talk in provincial elections about providing free transit, which I think would help, or more transit during election time, I think would also help ease some situations. And I think overall, I hope the whole thing is examined and improved on for the next time, because I do think that there are some people that were very patient, but I do see that some people can be very frustrated with how the process was handled. And if this race was any closer than what it was, and it was close, but if it was any closer, there would be some controversy around how this was handled. And I wasn't a huge fan myself. I said this, I wasn't comfortable with results being posted while people were still standing in voting lines, but that's okay. That's just my personal opinion. So there we go with that. Next, I think we need to talk about the big competition, which I want to talk about is Bill Smith. Now, I did say he would finish third. He did not obviously finish third. He finished a lot better than I expected. Not you. You expected this. I did not. I fail as a human being. But I think at the end, what happened here with Bill Smith, before we get into Nenshi, I think two things that I'm left with. Three things. I think his approach to the Green Line was a huge stumbling point for a lot of people. He was in the lead, and according to some polls around that, polls or whatever, I know that a lot of people are talking about polls and giving them crap, which is fine. But that certainly, I think, was a huge stumbling mark. The fact that he didn't have an actual policy or solution, I think, turned a lot of people off. The fact that it seemed to be, for a lot of people's mind, that he was in the hands of the billionaires, the rich folk, and not part of the common people, I think bothered a lot of people as well. And overall, I think that this campaign of Bill Smith at the end of the day lacked a lot of substance. And I think that people were ultimately looked at him in comparison to what Calgary had in Mayor Nenshi, and they did not feel that it was time for a change. They did not feel that this was, as some people have pointed out to me in private conversations about getting employed, you have to solve the problem. They didn't feel that Bill Smith solved the problem. So that is, I think, what I have to say about Bill Smith there. So let's go on to, and by the way, if you're hearing a ding on YouTube and or the podcast, there's comments on my Facebook Live. So apologies for that. Let's get to Mayor Nenshi. And I think that there is a couple of ways that we can look at this. First of all, as of last night when he won, around last night, he is now the 5th longest serving mayor in Calgary's history. And if he completes the next 4-year term, he will pass Ralph Klein and one other person to finish third. Don McKay then will be third. So I think that that's huge kudos, and I think a huge congratulations to Mayor Nenshi. So that's one way to look at this. I think a huge congratulations should go out to the fact that he, I think, has a huge impact on voter turnout. I think if you look back in 2010, I think his presence and his image and who he was had people in Calgary engaged in civic politics. And I think part of his legacy is, I know that people will talk about the flood, but the fact is he has helped people be more engaged in the city of Calgary than I think any other mayor in my time has ever done. There is no question about that. Like him or not, that is something that I think he has done very well. And I know that this was a by-election, but here in Vancouver, they had on Saturday an 11% turnout for a by-election. And they don't have high numbers, and I think that they are envious/jealous of what Nenshi and civic politics are going on in Calgary right now. I think there are a number of cities that are very envious and jealous of how politics are being acted on civically in Calgary. And I think that that's a huge credit to Mayor Nenshi. I think engaging and having people around him that are engaged, I think huge kudos to that. I think that that's a tremendous thing. And I think realistically, if he wins the next term and he continues on for a fourth, it is a reasonable conversation to start having the conversation if he is the greatest mayor in Calgary's history. I almost think you can have that conversation now if you want it. But we may wait another 4 years, and I may be way ahead of my time in talking about that. However, this, I do want to bring up, here's the sobering part of this. I just want to take a look at the numbers, because I don't know, there's lots to celebrate, but there are some things that we can, that can be very sobering about this. I'm going to go back to 2013. The 2013 voting totals. Nenshi, 193,393. Everyone else, which included John Lord, 69,202. This time, 2017, Nenshi, 199,122, so his voter total went up. Bill Smith, 169,367, and if you include everyone else, which is Bill Smith, Andre Chabot, Curtis Olson, David Lapp, Larry Heather, Stan the Man, etc., Emil Graham, that total is 188,184. So 199,122 people voted for Nenshi. 188,184 people did not vote for Nenshi. In 2013, 193,393 people voted for Nenshi. Everyone else did not. That dot was 69,202. So I think, by the way, if you're interested, Larry Heather actually dropped 1,000 votes from 1,857 in 2013 to 845 in 2017. And he did end up beating Stan the Man Wozniak, 845 to 664. So, yes, there's a victory, and yes, the purple has risen in Calgary again. But here's another way that I've been thinking about this, and I do want to bring this up. I remember a few years ago, I don't remember specifically the year, but I do remember this. Mayor Nenshi was on a call-in show on the radio, on an afternoon show. And a lady called, and the lady was an older lady. She wasn't very, some of you may remember this. She wasn't a very confrontational lady. She was a very polite person. She had a question. She wasn't agreeing with Nenshi. She was probably in disagreement with Mayor Nenshi, but about some things. And he came across really snarky. Like, not kind of snarky, really snarky. It was so snarky that there was a bunch of people that actually tweeted at him and said, I don't think that your response was very appropriate. Now, he probably I think he did apologize for that. So I'm not holding that necessarily against him. But it does speak to, I think, people's perception of Mayor Nenshi. And I think there is some sobering reflection that does need to be done here in the midst of celebration. I know that people have said and have come up with the comment, and I have come up, that he's the smartest guy in the room, and you would want to have the smartest guy in the room be your mayor. And I don't disagree with that. I think you want a very intelligent human being in front of be your mayor. That's very true. I don't disagree with that at all. But I think the problem is, it's just, I don't care who you are. I think you don't treat people, if you're Don Iveson, if you're Gregor Robertson, if you're Ralph Klein, which people brought up, if anyone, any mayor treats someone like that, and anyone, if you're looking at this in a customer service role, if anyone treated like that in a customer service role, that's piss poor. And I think that that's a lot of people's issue with Nenshi, is that if you are in any way opposed to Nenshi, he turns you off. He shuts you down, and it's very condescending. And you can't say that people don't think that, because I think people do think that. I think people are looking at things like bike lanes, other things, bike lanes, property taxes, the fact that property taxes continue to rise, and it's on your bill, the current economy state. That's not Nenshi necessarily. But bike lanes and some of the things that it feels like public art, that he's turned people away, that he hasn't brought in reasonable dialogue and ideas. He's pushed people away in some ways. And I think that that's really a reflection of why the percentage for Nenshi went down. It did go down. We have the numbers there to see that. While voter turnout went up, his numbers and percentage isn't up. And people brought up Ralph Klein, and the argument was, well, look at Ralph. Ralph was arrogant. Ralph was this. People voted for Ralph. And that's true. That is very true. But I'd like to bring up something here. Back in 2004, there was the provincial election where the Conservatives, the PCs, the Conservatives at that time, dropped 13 seats on the way to their victory. And Ralph said this, I'm going to quote this. This is from a CBC article. We got a message, and the message is we have to listen just a little bit more carefully. We can't be perceived to be arrogant, but we have a majority other provinces can only dream about. We still won 3-1, so I feel very, very good. I think that's a great way. I almost think that that's a perfect way to analyze what happened here. I think that people are happy that Nenshi won because they see him as the best option, but I think that people really want him to listen more. They want more. I think there are people that are expecting a better treatment, a better solution, some better options, and some constructive options from Mayor Nenshi than what they are currently getting. Now, that's not to say, because I want to bring this up, I think this is really important to say, that there's not an element of bigotry, racism, divisiveness, and all of those words that are not in play here. I do think that that is a huge part of this, but I do think that in terms of policy, there are some things that I think if you took Mayor Nenshi for drinks and sat him down and there's some things that he would like to change, those are some areas that I think he might want to. So celebrate the victory and congratulations to Mayor Nenshi. But I also think there needs to be some sober reflection on these results, because he did lose 2 wards and he was close in others. This wasn't a landslide sweep. This was an eke out. This was a closer one. And I think there are some lessons, even in victory, that you can get. So I'm curious what your thoughts are. Is it cause for celebration or sobering reflection? Comment on Facebook. Comment on YouTube. Follow me on Twitter at KEVOLE. Spreaker.com, KEVOLE. Soundcloud.com, KEVOLE. I know this one was a little longer. Hope you have a good day, and we will talk to you all soon. Bye for now.